Welcome to Peace. And we are here together on November 6th. And welcome to everyone at home and here in Lauderdale. It is being recorded. Okay, so we are recording our time together this morning. So I'm Jess and I live in Lauderdale, and I've been attending services and have been part of the Peace community for probably 5 years-ish. So I'm going to be, maybe like 6 or 7, I don't know. A few years, not even close to most of the members of the community, but hanging in there. So I will be leading the service this morning. And so we are going to start with a prayer of confession. So hopefully everyone at home has the words if you would like to follow along. So we will read it. I will read the words that are not in bold, and I'm going to ask the people here to please read the bold words. So here's our prayer of confession. There have been times when we felt scattered about, disjointed, dried up, all of our energy gone. Not trusting in your forgiveness or your power. We trust only in ourselves, and our lives become dry and brittle. May what was dead, scattered, and disjointed become alive, like the bones of Ezekiel's vision, that we may be one body in Christ, equipped to be your people in the world. We are going to sing Blessed Are They, so please rise as able if you are here. Thank you, everyone. A very fitting hymn for today, All Saints' Day. So we will also read responsively our psalm of today. It's Psalm 17, verses 1 through 9. Hear a just cause, O Lord. Attend to my cry. Give ear to my prayer from lips free of deceit. You try my heart if you visit me by night. If you test me, you will find no wickedness in me. My mouth does not transgress. My steps have held fast to your paths. My feet have not slipped. Wondrously show your steadfast love. O Savior of those who seek refuge from their adversaries at your right hand. From the wicked who despoil me, my deadly enemies who surround me. So our gospel reading is from Luke 6, 23 through 28. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven. For that is what their ancestors did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is what their ancestors did to the false prophets. But I say to you, listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. The congregation stood that whole time. I think that was probably a record of like how the readings went. So yay. We just did some excerpts that will connect with my message and my words. So when I thought about what I wanted to share today when it was my turn, I looked at the readings first and thought a bit about them, and then just kind of came back to myself. And then I also thought about the time, like the time that we're in with the election coming up in just a couple of days. So I kind of put all of those things together. And so I have a little background to share with you. And then I actually have some slides with some like some things I want to lift up today I'll share my slides with you all that are not here. And then if you are here, I brought in some beanbag boards that I repurposed. So we have a lot of beanbag boards in our family, and we use them here in our faith committee on the night before Ash Wednesday. I don't know what the Lutherans call it. Is there a name for it? I was raised Catholic. I don't know. There's some name for it the night before. Okay. But then, yeah, so 2 years ago, I just took some of the boards and I repainted all of them. So I have photos of them for you all at home. And then the people here can walk around and see my boards of how I processed what was going on at the time. So my background is I am a middle school teacher. I teach social studies and I've been doing that for about 25 years. And currently, like, my message that I share with my students and my classroom community is be kind, be curious, do good. So those are up on the board in the front of my classroom. They're like my email signature. It says Jess Winkler, she, her, hers, be kind, be curious, do good. And so I'm focusing today on the do good part. And it's, I think, really fitting, following up on Pam's wise words last week. So as it turns out, I earned my PhD in social studies education at the University of Minnesota. And my dissertation topic was practical reasoning. And the whole point of practical reasoning is to do good. But doing good for whom is where the, yes, where you really have to grapple with things and what my dissertation committee would ask me. So I took it up in the context of a classroom and helping future teachers, teacher candidates, think about how to navigate really uncertain situations. So practical reasoning, or reasoning in general, is you see something, you have a perception of a situation, and then in your brain, you're like just making a judgment, you're discerning it, what's going on in front of you, and then you take an action. And so the teacher candidates, when we teacher, were often just really struggling, like, what should I do? What should I do? Like, this kid said this happened. So they'd come back to me on campus after being out in the field in their classrooms, and they'd always say, what should I do? A really good question, because there's not one answer, of course. You have to think about the context. So I found this thing called practical reasoning, which I studied and read a lot of philosophers and things, because it comes from Aristotle, and that was hard to read. So then I read someone who interpreted Aristotle, and that went a little better. And then I collected my data. I gave my study participants, who were elementary teacher candidates, I gave them a situation called a case. And then I asked them prompts that would elicit their practical reasoning. And then I studied like how they responded to this uncertain situation. And it wasn't just a moment, it was more of a case. It was a longer term thing. And so what I found is that, of course, an elementary teacher, and most of us, when you are responding to a situation, the first thing that probably kicks in is your emotion. So that definitely impacts your reasoning. And that's okay, because we have to love people. But that's not always getting to the best to doing good. Is need to also have some cognition or a little bit of logic to help you also. And then what I found was some of the teacher candidates used imagination. And that was the most exciting thing to me, as they were able to see beyond what was in front of them and come up with some really, really creative solutions. So I haven't done much with it since I defended it, but I do write articles, and then I try to bring it into my classroom in my life. And if I ever meet someone in the context of like people who say, what is your PhD about? Which is fine, because I don't like, I'm not living that part of myself right now. I'll tell this story. So I'm going to tell a story, and this story is from Pastor Dave. So I say, well, this is probably the best, like, real application I can give you. So Pastor Dave told us this story, and it really stuck with me. So when Emily and Nicholas were going to Brimhall, one day, Emily comes running in off of the bus and said, Nicholas has a bloody nose, and Pastor Dave's like, oh goodness. And he was crying and really, really sad. So Pastor Dave's like, okay, what can I do? Like, how can I respond to my child with emotion, cognition, and imagination? So he ran to the refrigerator, he opened it up, and he took out ketchup. and he sprayed the ketchup all over his shirt. And so Nicholas just comes in to the house and he's all sad and there's blood all over his shirt. And he's like, Dad, I had a bloody. And he looked up and he saw the ketchup all over Pastor Dave and said, oh, you had one too. And just gave him a hug. So you think about all the different ways a parent could respond to a child coming in with a bloody nose. That's brilliant. Like, that's wisdom. That is love. That is imagine. That is everything. So that's, to me, what practical reasoning is you can take a moment and you can bring all those parts together. And so that's what I challenge myself to do. And that's what I challenge teacher candidates to do, is slow down. You don't have to always react. You can respond and give yourself permission to do so. You can say, yeah, this is not okay. You need to stop, but we're going to talk more about it later, or we're going to talk more about it tomorrow, and not just those rushes to judgment. So that's the backstory. And so I called on someone who's impacted me a lot to share some more things this morning. So I have some slides that I'm going to share, and I'm hoping this will work. The people at home see my screen? So does anyone know where Good Trouble, where these have most recently come from which person? John Lewis, absolutely. So I want you all to be able to see it. Thank you, Edie. Okay, so I feel like when I stand close to it, it's echoey. So this was a verse from the Psalm that we read. Or no, sorry, this is my thing I have to ask you to do first. So wherever you are in this service this morning, I just want you to think about a person in your life who did good things and maybe got into trouble. So I want you to think of someone. Again, on All Saints Day, we remember people, we think of people, and it's just good, I think, to always have someone in mind that you're kind of thinking about, remembering, dedicating a time when you are pausing to think about something, and then you can also think about that person. Everyone, think about someone as we view a couple of texts together and then look at beanbag boards that I painted. So now, all right. So this is the excerpt of the Psalm that first connected with me as I was thinking about what to say this morning. So I have avoided the ways of the violent. My steps have held fast to your paths. My feet have not slipped. So what I thought about was the march from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama in March of 1965, known as Bloody Sunday. And so the first march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, John Lewis was one of the leaders who planned the march, and then who was one of the people who got very violently beaten by the local law enforcement. And so there's actually a film, and I don't know if any of you have seen it, but you can go to this link. So this is just a little preview, and it's just some images. There's no sound. So this would be something you can all just watch at home. So I can email out the link if you're interested in watching this. And so this is kind of the context and what I thought about first to kind of connect it from the past to today. So yeah, there's mixed feelings about renaming the Edmund Pettus Bridge. There's a lot of support to rename it, but there's a lot of legislation in Alabama that makes it very difficult to change the names of anything like before 40 years ago, so they'd have to actually change the Alabama law first. But then some people think that the bridge today is more powerful, like people connect it with this instead of Edmund Pettus, who was a Confederate general and a member of the KKK and just is really awful. The first connection that I made, and then that line from the Psalm. And then the second connection that I made or thought about was the letter. And so some of you may have read the letter that John Lewis wrote before he died in July of 2020, but then it was published after he died. How many people here read his letter? Okay, well, this is Morgan Freeman reading his letter, and this letter is where the line "good trouble, necessary trouble" comes from. And it's just really powerful words, and it ties in with what I think the readings are asking us to do today, and then this election season. So here is one of the quotes from, or wait, here it is the video. So this is what one of the lines of it. So we're just going to watch. So Claudia, how can I make sure that the people at home can hear but the video? Okay.
To know that in the last days and hours, filled me with hope about the next chapter of the great American. Of people motivated simply by government sanctioned
Positively powerful. Away from it. Am I not muted? Is it good? All right, so this is just one excerpt from this powerful letter John wrote, Representative John Lewis wrote, that was published in the New York Times just a couple of weeks after he died. So one way that he's asking us to act is, of course, through the vote, which is something we can all do if we have not done already coming up this week. So good reminder of call to action. So, and then this is the words from Luke in today's gospel reading that I thought kind of tied everything together on this All Saints Day and this election time and this idea of good trouble. So, but I say to you, listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. So, yeah, after George Floyd was murdered and everything was happening with the pandemic. So that August of 2020, before I went back to school, I just needed to like kind of center myself before I was gonna, be real with 150 eighth graders every day. So I painted some boards. So they're just around the sanctuary. So I was going to play this song, Wade in the Water. God's gonna trouble the water. And yeah, so they do go in order. The first two are up there because it started in March with the St. Paul teachers strike. And then that's when the pandemic started. And so there's kind of like, it's just me processing what was going on in the world of education and the pandemic. And then of course, when May comes, it's George Floyd, and then June, and then July was not only when John Lewis died, that's also when Philando was killed just down the street from our community. So I am remembering both of them and lifting them up. And then I have one more board for August. They all center around stand. So one is like stand by, stand with, bystander, stand still and remember. And my last one, the August one, which I haven't finished yet, it's in my head, is upstander. So once you finish, over on the table, there's rocks. So instead of lighting a candle today for the person that you're remembering or the group you're lifting up, there, you can just put like, there's permanent markers. So you can just write the person or group on a stone and then put it in the bowl of water to lift up whoever you're thinking about today. So if you're at home, I have to do something so they can hear the song. So people here, so we're going to combine this like with our peace. What do we call it? Passing of the peace. Okay. So we're just going to move around here and then I'm going to talk with the people at home. So I was going to play the song. Then I took photos of the boards. So then I was just going to click through the photos for you all so that you can see them. And I guess if you have something you can write. Okay. Oh, can you? Zoom can hear my voice. Can I take this up? Okay. Stand up as able, move around, say peace. I didn't know if there's bags over there if you really want to toss. Yeah, those two are kind of, yeah. If you can do steps, you have to, those two are kind of optional, but the main three is this one, and this one that kind of tie in with the theme of good trouble. So, all right.
Children wait in water. Get bandaged, dressed in white. God's are gonna trouble the water. Like the Israelites. God's are gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in red. God's a gonna trouble. Moses laying. God's a gonna trouble the wild. In the wild, yeah. God's a gonna trouble the wild. Trouble, gonna trouble the wild. Trouble. In the gonna trouble the wild. That band all dressed in white. God's a gonna trouble the wild. Like the Israelites. God's a gonna trouble the wild. God's a gonna trouble the wild. Oh, see that band all dressed in red. God's a gonna trouble the wild. That Moses laying. God's a gonna trouble the wild. In the wild. In the wild. Yeah. God's a trouble the wild. Trouble. God's a gonna trouble the wild. Gonna trouble the one. In the water, gonna trouble the water.
Are there any offerings this morning? Any music, poems, songs, drawings, words, anything from anyone in Zoom that you want to share with us here?
I find it interesting that in our Giving Voice chorus this week, that we have a woman who's sight impaired and she just got back with her new seeing eye dog. And they teach these dogs, the first time I've ever heard this word, intelligent disobedience. And it's that the dog has learned to override her command if she wants to cross the street on a green light, or, you know, she can tell by the sound that it's a green light and there's a car racing down the street, the dog is trained to disobey her command. And that's just another form of good trouble.
Taught to not just think for themselves, they have to be taught to look high up to the height of the blind person who may be 6 feet tall and the dog is, 20 inches tall, to see obstacles about all the people around them too, so that they don't walk the blind person into a tree branch. So that's a beloved community thing too.
Anyone else here or at home that just has a connection or something to lift up or share?
So my dad was a union steward. He was a factory machine repairman. And they worked in a factory down near the Mississippi in southeast Iowa. And this factory was 3 or 4 floors high, had windows everywhere, none of which were open. And one summer, it got to about 115 degrees inside that building. And all those people were still forced to work. And he had it. He'd had it. He just found a ladder. He climbed up to the nearest window and broke through it and broke all the rest of the windows he could find so they could breathe. He was fired the next day and rehired the next week.
Thank you, Vicki, for sharing. Anyone at home, a story, a connection, anyone, any group to lift up on All Saints Day?
Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to the Council of Churches. Is that what it's called, Claudia? That put on the, it was a workshop on white church and on what's the bridging the gaps. Anyway, kind of, it was basically what we had been talking about the week before. And what you've been talking about. And I was able to get a list of videos and other information about African Americans, about Native Americans, and I will print this off and have it available for anybody who wants to do and be curious. I think the whole idea of being curious is where we need to be. Definitely want to.
Anyone at home want to unmute and share anything before we do some prayers together? Oh, and before Vicki shares some music with us. Okay. All right, our offering prayer. Let's read it together. Let us pray. Accept these gifts we offer, O God. May they help to proclaim your message to all people, a message of peace and hope, a message of unconditional love for all people. Prayer of the people from Richard Rohr. Loving God, you fill all things with a fullness and hope that we can never comprehend. Thank you for leading us into a time where more of reality is being unveiled for us all to see. We pray that you will take away our natural temptation for cynicism, denial, fear, and despair. Help us have the outrage to awaken to greater truth, greater humility, and greater care for one another. May we place our hope in what matters and what lasts, trusting in your eternal presence and love. Listen to our heart's longings for the healing of our suffering world. So please take a moment to lift up someone. Knowing, good God, that you are hearing us better than we are speaking, we offer these prayers in all the holy names of God. So we're going to sing the sending hymn of Christ Be Our Light and then do a sending before our announcements, birthdays, and anniversaries. So let's do the hymn. So it's on page 715. Go right into that to bring us closure this morning. Okay, let's read our sending together. It is time to go bravely into the world. May your hearts be open to deeper questions. May God's questions challenge you, guide you, and help you to find ultimate meaning and your true calling. May the Spirit of God be your companion as you walk gently upon the world. Go in peace. Okay, do we have birthdays or anniversaries this week to celebrate? Okay, Claudia and Dennis, 44th anniversary. Anyone else? Okay. Happy anniversary to you. Announcements. Who has announcements?
Made an announcement last week about a studio opening. Forget all about it. It's canceled. For next month, Thursday, next month. Too many things going on.
All right. Studio open house to be determined in December. So. Who else? Any other announcements? Any announcements from anyone at home in the Zoom? Okay, then there's soup supper this Wednesday at 6. And there's celery plants and kale in the garden. So come for your celery and kale and make yourself a delicious green smoothie.
Jess and I kind of planned on Wednesday the 16th, so not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. Following supper, we'll come up here, I think, and we're gonna view a short documentary called "Carved from the Heart." It's we're kind of doing it as part of recognizing Indigenous Peoples Month in November, and it's a book of it's a documentary about kind of collective and communal grief in Indigenous culture. It's serious, but it ends very uplifting, and it's I saw it in grad school and I just loved it. It's a really beautiful. It's about 30 minutes long, so we'll watch that, and if people are up for it, we'll have a couple little discussion questions that we can do after. So November 16th.
Anything else? Oh, one more.
Choir rehearsal at Dan's studio at 10:30 today.
Okay, so the choir members apparently get to see Dan's studio. So if you want to join the choir real quickly, you can have a sneak peek at the studio. All right, well, thank you everyone for gathering together on this All Saints Day, and have a wonderful day.
We'll keep the Zoom going if you guys want to unmute and talk to each other.